Hi. You've probably heard many stories about the Chicago Cubs, about their World Series drought, the curse of the Billy Goat, or that 108 is their lucky number. But what do you know about the home of the Cubs, Wrigley Field? Did you know that Wrigley Field has one of the last hand-turned scoreboards in Major League Baseball? Or that they didn't host night games until 1988? How about that Wrigley Field was home to the Chicago Bears for 50 seasons? That's right, 50 seasons. From early days as a Federal League ballpark to becoming a historic landmark, Wrigley Field has a rich history and a bright future. Wrigley Field, also known as the Friendly Confines, was built in 1914 and is the second oldest ballpark in Major League Baseball. Boston's Fenway Park is 2 years older. Wrigley Field was originally known as Weigman Park, after owner Charles Weigman. The seating capacity in 1914, when it was built, was only 14,000. The current seating capacity is over 42,000. After the Federal League ended, Weigman purchased the Cubs and moved the team to Weigman Park. The Wrigley family, as in the chewing gum, purchased the team and field from Weigman in 1920 and renamed it Cubs Park. It was renamed Wrigley Field in 1926. The last two owners of Wrigley, the Tribune Company and Thomas Ricketts, have chosen not to rename it. Wrigley Field is known for its scoreboard and ivy-covered outfield walls, both of which were installed in 1937. Wrigley is one of the last parks to maintain a hand-turned scoreboard, and the original scoreboard remains intact. These days, scores come into the scoreboard from a computer, but someone inside the scoreboard still manually changes the numbers. A fun fact is that no batted ball has ever hit the scoreboard in center field. At the beginning of each season, the outfield walls are nearly bare and become covered with thick green ivy as the season progresses. Major League Baseball rules now require that all outfield walls have to be padded, but Wrigley Field was grandfathered in, which means it's the only Major League ballpark without padded walls because of the ivy. In 2004, the ivy was included in Wrigley Field's landmark designation, so it's not going anywhere. Before 1988, all games at Wrigley Field were daytime games. Lights were not added until Major League Baseball decided that postseason games could not be played at parks without lights. The first night game took place on August 8, 1988, but was rained out after 3.5 innings, so the first official night game occurred the next night on August 9th, and the Cubs won. Wrigley Field is not just for baseball. The Chicago Bears called Wrigley Field home from 1921 to 1970 before moving to their own stadium. The first football game played at Wrigley Field since 1970, when the Bears left, was in 2010 when Northwestern played Illinois. The professional soccer team, the Chicago Sting, used Wrigley Field and Comiskey Park for their home matches during the late 70s and 80s. And on January 1st, 2009, ice hockey came to Wrigley Field. The National Hockey League's Winter Classic was played on the field with the Chicago Blackhawks playing the Detroit Red Wings in its annual outdoor game. Since 2005, Wrigley Field has been home to concerts during the summers. The first concert at Wrigley Field was by Jimmy Buffett in 2005, and the most recent was by Fall Out Boy this past September. When you're over 100 years old, you're going to need some work to stay up to date. The current owners of Wrigley Field have started the 1060 Project. From Cubs.com, they describe the 1060 Project as it aims to preserve Wrigley Field's beauty, charm, and historic features that fans have cherished for more than a century, while updating and improving the iconic ballpark for fans, players, and the community. The project started after the 2014 season and should be near completion in the next year. It will include upgraded facilities for players, new signage, video boards, more concessions, restroom upgrades, and very important structural improvements. Wrigley Field has had its name for 92 of its 104 years and has been home of the Cubs for 102 years. For 50 seasons, it was the home of the Chicago Bears and has hosted numerous other sporting events and concerts. Through careful renovations and upgrades, Wrigley Field will be ready to provide a historic experience for generations to come. Thank you.